What is up, guys? This is Max Square, and I've been getting a lot of requests lately to do a tutorial on a basic intro and animation in After Effects. So I decided to finally do it, and this is what we're going to be making today. So it's very simple, and I know the colors might look a little weird, but that's just because After Effects exported it very weirdly. It is actually a nicer green when we get in there. So yeah, this is what we're going to be making, so let's just jump right into it. So opening up After Effects, we're going to create a new composition. Doesn't matter what you name it, make sure it is 1920 by 1080, and it's going to be about 6 seconds. And while we're here, let's go ahead and set the background color to hashtag 2B2B2B. Now it's not actually hashtag, it's actually hex color, but you may or may not know that. I'm not a Twitter nerd, just throwing that out there. So click OK, and let's start making some pretty cool stuff. So go ahead and create a new shape layer. So just right click on your composition and then create shape layer. Then go up to your shapes and select the ellipse tool and click anywhere on the preview and hold down shift to create a perfect circle. So make it kind of big, kind of small. I'll give you the exact things you want to make it. Make it about let's make it 600 by 600 pixels. Wow, I just had dinner. I'm still in the food mindset, you know. So I know I'm very weird. Okay, so we want to make sure this is a transparent fill. So to do that, select the fill text and then select the white rectangle with the red line through it. Make it transparent, and we're going to add a stroke. So we're going to select that, and 5 pixels is probably good for this. And you can see this is the green I'm using. It's a little nicer. It's not as dull than what you saw at the beginning. So we want to name this to circle dashed, or we can name it dashed circle just to be a little easier. So once we've done that, go into your dash circle properties. So just drop down contents, ellipse 1, and then stroke 1. And then where it says dash, you want to add 1, and then set the dash to 25. That's a pretty nice dash, and it looks pretty cool in an overall animation. Once you've done that, go to add, and then select trim paths. I've been struggling to say that word. Don't judge me. So go ahead and bring the end percentage to 0, and then click the stopwatch to add a keyframe. Go to 20 frames and bring it up to 100. Now you will see if we hit play, wherever my preview, if we hit play, you'll notice it just fills up. Very, very basic. I'm actually going to set this to maybe 20. So yeah, maybe set it to about 22, and that'll give it a nicer, like perfect circle look. You may have noticed when we set it to 25, we had 2 overlapping at the top, just OCD problems. So now just before we do anything else, we want to add a repeater to this shape layer. So go to the repeater properties and then also go to the transform repeater properties just so we can see it's laid out. So keep the copies at 3, and then we want to bring the position here to 0, 0, so they're overlapping. So we want to keep this at 100 for now. We won't do any animation for that repeater just yet. We want to do the rest of the fading up and all that stuff first. So now instead of going through and closing all these drop downs, just hold the command key and hit the top little drop down thing. That way we can just close all of the little tabs. So now we want to add the filled in circle that kind of pops up in the middle. So go ahead and select your ellipse tool once again. Make sure your fill and your stroke are pretty much just inverted. So you want to have the fill to that green color, which by the way is the hex color 2FDC99 if you wanted to know that. And then just add a transparent stroke. Once that is done, make a ellipse that has some margin between the 2 little circles. Something like that is good. You can even make it a little bigger. So yeah, just play around with that. And then you want to center your anchor points and just align that ellipse to the center. We can rename our layer to filled circle just so we can have some organization. Always good to stay organized. Now we want this circle to pop up halfway between this stroke being filled. So just go to 10 frames if you keyframed the original circle at 20 frames. Select the filled circle layer, select S on your keyboard, which will bring up your scale properties, and then set this to 0, and then click the stopwatch, go to probably 20 frames, and go to 100. Then we want to easy ease this one more time, so we want to right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. And this always just adds a nicer effect. Let's go ahead and preview our animation so far. And so that's looking pretty cool. So let's go ahead and add the little dashes that explode when the circle reaches its full scale. So let's go ahead and select our rectangle tool from our shapes object. And we want to create a very thin rectangle. Nothing too tall or thick. Something like that is good. Maybe even a little shorter. Just make the size maybe 2 and the height about 50. So I'm going to be using a height of 50 and a width of 5. So to access that one more time, you want to go down to the shape layer, contents, rectangle path, and then you can edit the size. So we're going to name this layer explosion, and then we want to add a repeater. So just select add repeater. And then we want to go down and add 10 copies. So that'll do that. I want to add a rotation of 36, and it's going to look really jumbled. No need to worry about that. Set the position to 0. And then after that, you want to go to the rectangle scale here. So then after that, you want to select your main explosion layer and select scale. So now we're going to actually just keep this hidden behind this one circle, and we're going to hit a keyframe there. You can even set it to about 60%. That looks pretty hidden to me. Go to 1 second or 30 frames and set this to 90% scale because when we did 100, it was too much around. So that looks pretty good there. So now, obviously, when we go to the beginning, our circle isn't there, so our little dashes or explosion is going to be just sitting there awkwardly. So to fix this problem, we want to go to 20 frames, select our explosion layer, and then select the Alt and left brackets, and that'll just cut that layer to the beginning of where we had our timeline cursor thing. So let's preview it one more time just to see everything overall. Well, that's looking pretty cool. Now we want to fix this explosion because it happens kind of awkwardly and very slowly, actually. So we want to keyframe this to easy ease. And let's just zoom in a bit. And if this looks slow to you, don't worry about that. That's just because we're previewing it and it slows it down for you to get more detailed. But when we do an overall preview, it's going to run a lot faster. So let's start this at 15 frames. And of course, our layer isn't there yet, so we want to do the Alt bracket again with that layer selected, so it'll move the beginning to that point. So once again, our scale is too small, so just scale this down until it hides, and let's see how this looks. That's looking pretty cool. Now, as it hits 25 frames, we want to scale up this original dash circle. Wow, excuse me. And now we're going to start editing that repeater that we added at the beginning of our animation. So we want to go to the scale and set a keyframe, and then go to 5 frames, so it'll be 10 frames in all. Look at me trying to do math late at night. And then we're going to scale this up till it just goes off the screen. And that's about 431%, so if you want to be following along with that. Now we still have our original dash circle, so to do that, we want to go to our ellipse path, go to size, and set a keyframe where the beginning of our repeater scale starts, and then just scale it up with the rest of them until, again, it disappears. So let's take a look at our animation once more. So that's looking pretty cool. Now this finishes at 5 frames. So at 5 frames, we want to move this whole object down. So select the explosion and filled circle and just go to P on your keyboard, and that'll bring up your position properties. So set a keyframe at 1 second 5 frames, and go to 15 frames and drag this down till it's off the screen. And that's 1371, something around there should be good. So make sure it's just completely off the screen. I'm gonna do 1500 to make sure it's completely off. So once that is off, halfway through, which should be about 10 frames, or 10 frames, where it's kind of cut off, so you should have about 5 little dashes at the top, so it looks like a little sun. So now we want to create that layer that just kind of explodes and fills the whole screen with a green. So to do that, we want to create another shape layer. Yes, we're going to create another one. We're going to name this, what should we name this? Let's name this transition. I know, I'm I can't even spell. I'm very original with my titles. Don't get me wrong. So we're going to fill this up with that green color. So the easiest way to do that is to just double click on your rectangle tool and it'll automatically size it to your composition. Now we want to use this anchor point and set it to the bottom middle, so it should be down here. Make sure you have it selected and then do that. And then go to your scale, set it to 0, set a keyframe, go to 20 frames, and scale it to 100. So now as you're watching it, you'll see it comes from the bottom, right where our little circle or sun leaves off. So now we're going to add that little diamond pattern that we saw on this green layer. So just copy and paste or duplicate that transition layer twice. And we're going to name this pattern 1 and pattern 2. Now select both of those pattern layers, select U, and deselect that scale animation so it doesn't scale up or anything like that, so it's just a still image. Go into your effects and presets window and search for Venetian blinds and just drag that right onto your pattern. And we're just going to edit the pattern 1 and then we're going to copy and paste it. So go to effects, Venetian blinds, and go to 100%. Now we want to make the fill color 2B, so it's that like grayish kind of pattern. We want to set the transition completion to 50%. Now you won't be seeing anything, that's just because we're hidden behind that other pattern. So copy and paste that pattern onto the other one. And just before we do anything else, make sure the Venetian blinds direction is set to 45. Go to the other one and make sure it's set to -45. Now this looks really crazy and it's starting to hurt my eyes. So let's put the width at 50 here and the same for the other one. And you'll see that creates a nice little effect. So select your pattern 1 and pattern 2 and select T on your keyboard. That'll bring up your opacity. Set this to 50. And that's looking pretty cool. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but you can get it down to what you want it to look like. But that's the rough idea. So now this looks crazy now. Our whole animation is ruined. So what we want to do is only show this when our main square kind of just pops up. So whatever that is, for me it's about 11 frames. 1 second in 11 frames. And do that little alt bracket key trick that I showed you all. So now if we go back, it's back to normal. So it should only appear here, and we also want to scale that up. So remember when I told you to deselect that? Yeah, we're gonna go back. So the easiest way is just go to your transition layer, copy it, select pattern 1 and pattern 2, and duplicate and paste it. My words are all over the place today. And there you go. That's all smooth and whatnot. So once this finishes, which is about 25 frames, we're going to add our text. So we're going to go 2 seconds in our timeline and select our text tool. And here's where we're going to add our cool text. So I'm going to type in Mac Square. And I'm using the Grand Hotel font, which is a really nice script font. Go back to your selection tool and align this to the center of your composition. Then we want to add that Venetian blinds to our text. And we want to animate this to go from 0% to 100% so that it kind of just appears. So here at 25 frames, which should be 5 frames before 2 seconds, set a keyframe, with 100%. So it should disappear. And then go to 5 frames after 2 seconds and bring this to 0. And then jump to 2 seconds just so we can see how that looks. I might put the width at 10 just so we get some smaller lines. So that's looking pretty cool. And then after that, we're pretty much done. Now, if you want to fade this out, just do the same thing with the Venetian blinds, except reverse it. So maybe at 5 frames, set a keyframe for 0%, and then go to 6 seconds, and then go to 100%. So now it's going out, just like that. Now, I added that music in here. That music is Lucid Truth by Blackmill, if you want to use that. It's a pretty awesome dubstep song, so you can add that in. But that is the whole animation from start to finish. So let's just do a RAM preview so we can see how this looks. And that's our animation. It's looking pretty cool. Of course, you could add anything you would like, some extra text here, maybe a logo. That's why I left so much margin. Now, the whole animation on the whole is probably 3-4 seconds. So yeah, that's how to do it. Well, guys, that's the tutorial. I feel like I'm forgetting something, and if I am, I really do apologize. But that should give you some pretty cool techniques to use in After Effects, and should just give you a nicer, more comfortable feeling when you start to get into creating your own animation. So I hope this helped you. If so, please be sure to click that like button. Also, subscribe for more tutorials and reviews like this one, and be sure to drop me a comment down below. Thanks again, guys, and I will see you in my next video.